So in previous sutras and last class, we discussed about the karma theory, and then we talked about the nature of life experiences, and we saw how the life experiences are connected to the past karmas we have done, the past sanskaras we have gathered, and these sanskaras, technically known as karmashay, they are responsible for the kind of species we are born in, the kind of experiences we are going through, and also the lifespan. So this karmashay is responsible for that. And then we also saw that it is not only that only in the life and death and new birth these karmashay is applicable or karma theory is applicable, but in this very life the karma siddhant is applicable. Something done with lot of intensity, it can bear fruits very fast. So if the papa karma is done with lot of intensity, the results will be fast. Same way the punya karma, if it is done with intensity, it will bear fruits very fast. So based on that, the yoga sadhana also can bear fruits very fast. That is why there is a difference in the intensity levels of sadhakas. So when we did chapter 1, if you remember, we did Sutra 21, Tivra Samvega Namasanna. The one who has got Tivra Samveg in the efforts, to him Samadhi becomes easy to attain. That is what we saw. So here it is again reconfirming the same fact that some actions, when they are done with intensity and lot of intention behind it, strong desire behind it, then they can bear fruits very fast. And that's why in terms of yoga sadhana, they always talk about Tivra Samveg in yoga, and in other scriptures, another terminology is used, which is mumuksha. Mumukshutva is the primary criteria for the spiritual aspirant. The more intense mumuksha a person has, the more faster he can grow on the spiritual path. So that's why it has been suggested that one has to go on intensifying the desire to get liberated, desire to work. So this desire has to be intensified, because then only the efforts will be intensified. So they talk about increasing the mumuksha. One may be born with a little less desire, but then proper thinking, proper understanding, using discrimination, one can grow in understanding, one can grow in discrimination, and as a result the intense effort are possible. But that would mean that we think about it. Normally we are just doing a kind of temporary work. When we are suffering, we may do some palliative work, जैसे हम कुछ दवा लगा देते हैं और फिर भूल जाते हैं, तो ऐसा काम हम लोग करते हैं. तो योग में भी ऐसा होता है. We are doing asanas, we are doing some pranayams, we are doing some meditation, little bit of meditation, and we think that that is sufficient. But that may not be representing the true mumuksha. True mumuksha is to reach the truth. True mumuksha is to reach the ultimate aim. So one has to think of the goal. If we are really wanting to succeed in our efforts to reach somewhere, then we have to think about the goal and how far the goal is. And are we really traveling fast enough to reach the goal? So by thinking that way, the mumuksha or the intensity of desire can be attained. As a result, one can succeed very fast. So the aim was set in previous sutras that something which has been suffered already, we can't do anything about it. But the pain which is yet to come. Now we have lived our life in a certain way till now. Till now, whatever experiences we have gathered, about that we can't do anything. But suppose if there are inherent weaknesses in our personality. We are going through certain experiences which are not conducive to our well-being. And we understand that our past karmas, our wrong attitudes, our old thinking patterns are responsible for the present weaknesses and the present affairs of our life. Then perhaps we can take charge of life. So when we take charge of life, we have to really direct our actions in a certain way. Then only we can hope to become better persons or more capable persons. Now, when we say better persons, does not what is meant by better person? What do we mean by I becoming better person or I becoming capable person? Now, you see here in yoga, the better person is the person who can go through the life experiences in a equanimous mind, in a balanced state of mind, and go on evolving and becoming stronger and stronger so that he can deal with any life situation in a stronger manner, in a proper manner. At the same time, his spiritual attainment is ensured, his growth is ensured, and every day he is progressing further and further. So from that perspective, taking charge is the message of karma theory. So after taking charge, what do we do? The clear-cut goal has been laid down in previous two sutras, that the pain which is yet to come, the suffering which is yet to come, that has to be avoided. So from that perspective, we saw that the path of spiritual discipline, it has been equated to the medical science. Just like the medical science, the spiritual path also has got 4 branches or 4 aspects. Last time we saw what are the 4 aspects of medical science. The disease is there. Now, if the disease is there, we want to treat that disease, we want to become healthy, then we have to understand what is the cause of that disease. Without understanding the cause of the disease, we cannot deal with it. So the first is the disease, and second is the cause of the disease, and the third is the aim we have. And what is the aim in medical science? To become healthy, to become normal, to function well. That is the aim. And then the fourth part is how do we attain that? What kind of therapy, what kind of medicine is to be taken? So this way, the 4 aspects of medical science are there. Same way in spiritual world also, 4 types of or 4 aspects of spiritual sadhana are there. The first aspect of is called heya. Heya means that which is to be avoided. Why it is to be avoided? Because it is responsible for our suffering and our lack of growth, lack of well-being, and we are not progressing. We are caught up, we are stuck. We think that we are not progressing. So this is the problem area. This can be compared to disease, and a lot of suffering and misery is there in life. So how, this is the first part. And the second part is, what is the cause of that misery? There has to be a cause of that misery, because unless we know the cause, we will not be able to get rid of this misery and pain from our life. So last sutra, 16th sutra says, Heyam dukkham anagatam. The pain which is yet to come has to be avoided. And today's sutra is talking about what is the cause of that dukkha. What is the cause of that dukkha? Heya hetu. Heya hetu. Hanam hanopaya. These are the 4 words which are there. So heya hetu means what is the cause of that which we are seeking to avoid? What is the cause of that misery? And the misery has been a very, very important aspect. Those of, as I last time said, I believe all of you are yoga teachers, and you have been exposed to basic text of yoga and basic ideas of yoga. And when we talk about yoga, the Sankhya ideas are also connected. So the very first Karika, Sankhya Karika, talks about getting rid of 3 kinds of pain. That is the primary aim. And that too, not only temporarily, not only in a palliative way as we often do, but in a permanent, lasting and abiding way. So we have to attain abiding peace. And that has been termed as maybe mukti, maybe nirvana, maybe kaivalya, maybe moksha, maybe liberation, maybe apavarga. Various ideas have been there. So the third is hanam. Hanam is what is moksha or mukti. So how do we attain that? For that, there is a method. And that method that will be described in Sutra 24, 25, 26, 27. Later on we will see. But today's Sutra is talking about the second aspect, that is Heya Hetu. So what is the cause of this pain? The cause of pain, this pain, if we look at the Sutra, Drashtu Drashyayo Sanyogo Heya Hetu. What is Heya Hetu? Drashtu Drashyayo Sanyogo. And we had discussed this idea in Sutra 6 of chapter 2, where we talked about Asmita. So there we saw Drag Darshana Shaktayore Katmateva Asmita. What is Asmita? What is ego? Drag Shakti, that is pure consciousness, and Darshan Shakti, that is the Buddhi and the objective world. When they are taken as one, then the Asmita comes into existence. That is what is Asmita. So precisely the same thing is stated in this sutra which we are doing today, Sutra 17. And it says, Drashtu Drashyayo Sanyogo Heya Hetu. So Drak Shakti has been replaced by Drasta, and Darshan Shakti has been replaced by Drashya. So what was Drak Darshan Shakti in Sutra 246? That has been now termed as Drasta and Drashya. Drashtu Drashyayo Sanyogo Heya Hetu. So to take the Drashya and Drasta as one is the cause of pain. So that means we have already seen that we are a compound of two things. We are a compound of two things. One is the physical part and the other is consciousness part. So from that point of view, this Drashta and Drashya also indicates that the nature of experiences we have. Now this is not a far-fetched idea, or this is not an idea which is very distinct from us, and will not be able to understand it, because when we look at our experiences, we have got two kinds of experiences. One is related to the self, the other is related to the objects. One is related to the self, and self is represented by, or self is the representation of Drashta, pure consciousness, Purusha. And when that objective world is being talked about, objective experiences, or our Buddhi is there, our Manas is there, our Ahankar is there, our body is there, our senses are there, the sense capacities are there. They represent the Drashya part, they represent the Buddhi part, they represent the Prakriti part. So Purush and Prakriti, when they are taken as one, then that is what is Heya Hetu. That is responsible for the pain and suffering we have. The moment we will be able to distinguish between them, the moment we will have this viveka that these two are separate, then perhaps the things will become totally clear to us, and the pain which is there may go away. Now, at this juncture, I know I'm going in little detail, but I'm reminded of a very, very powerful book which was written recently, and there are a lot of followers of the person I'm talking about. The power of now. You see, when he talks about power of now, nowadays power of now has got many followers, and it is a very current book. What this power of now is talking about? It is talking about human experience where one maintains awareness of the self. When one maintains the awareness of the self, then he is in the moment, is living in that moment, and that is the power of now. And if you see yoga, entire yoga discipline begins with the word atha yoga anushasanam. That means now we are talking about yoga. Now we are thinking about yoga. Now we are experiencing yoga. So this now is very important. And that's why perhaps, I don't know whether Eckhart Tolle had been exposed to yogic ideas or Vedantic ideas or not. I do not know. No interaction possible with him. But the kind of writings which are there in his book, The New Earth and the Power of Now, they are talking about only these two entities, the pure consciousness and the Buddhi. We are to identify with our thoughts, with our ideas, with our notions, with our relationship, with our identification with object, with our identification with body. So in the process, we are losing sight of the consciousness. It is available to us. And that's why you will find that, if we look at it in a more direct way, let us understand our own experience. What do we see? As soon as we get up in the morning, what is the phenomena which is being experienced? What do we experience? The moment we get up, we say, oh, I am alive, I am awake, I am there. As against that what is there? The world is there. So when we become awake, then we become, oh, this is my house, I'm in the house, I'm in my bed. Now I have to get up. I have to go to kitchen. I have to make tea for me. I have to make coffee for me. I have to make breakfast for me. So everything else apart from me is the object. So there can be, when we talk about our knowledge, to put it in a very philosophical term, knowledge can be only of two kinds. In Sanskrit, it will be known as aham, naham. Swami Hariharandaranya, he has said that knowledge can be divided only in two parts, aham and naham. I am there. I have the knowledge of my own self. I am self-aware. I know myself. I am existing. I am alive. I am thinking. As against that, whatever is outside me is naham. Because is this computer me? No. Is the coffee I am drinking me? No. If the food which I am eating, is it me? It is not me. I am eating the food. So food is an object. My thoughts, I am thinking my thoughts. So are these thoughts me? Thoughts are also not me, because there is somebody who's thinking these thoughts. I am thinking these thoughts. So what is the nature of this I? And that is what we have seen in Sutra 6 of chapter 2. Drag darshana shaktayore katmateva asmita. And here it is Drastu drashyayo sanyogo heya hetu. So drasta, who's drasta? This I which you are referring to, but not that I which is connected to the coffee, to the food, or to the other objects, but I which is connected to my own self. When I think of myself, I am knowing myself. I am knowing myself. So when I am knowing myself, now this knowing myself is what is representing the drasta, the consciousness. Because I am a conscious being, so I am thinking this manner that, and when I'm thinking about my own awareness, then I know that I am doing this. I am aware that I am doing this. I am aware of my own self. I am. So this way, when thinking is done and meditation is done, then we are understanding that in this experience, or in the word used I, when we use the word I is a conglomerate of two or a mixture of two ideas. On the one hand is the consciousness, the other is the objective word. So now we are talking to each other. I said something and you understood it. So if I ask you, what did you understand? How did you understand? You will say that we are listening to you. You are speaking, we are listening to you, so we understand. But then, when you are listening to me and when you are understanding, that time you are not aware that you are doing it. Only when I will ask that who's understanding, you'll say, I am understanding, because you are talking. So then you will get access to the I. Otherwise, we don't have this self-awareness of the I when we are looking at the external world. So this way, experience tells us that there are two things which are united together in the concept called I sense or ego sense, or when we are referring to ourselves, I am so and so. Whenever we are using the word I, there are two things. So ego has got two moments. One moment is towards objective world. So we are looking, we become awake, and then we say, oh, I have to go to office at 9 o'clock. I must rush. I go to kitchen. I'll prepare breakfast. I will take a train. So now the consciousness is directed outward toward the objective world. So I is getting connected to the objective world. So my train, my food, my house, my bed, my relationship, my office, my work. What about I? In this process, we forget about the I. So if we become aware, now that is what Eckhart Tolle says. The moment you become aware of the self, that is the moment of now. then everything else vanishes and only the consciousness remains. So this is the distinction between the consciousness and the Purusha. So now two things have come together, Drashya and Drasta and Drashya. So now Patanjali will tell us what is Drashya and what is Drasta. What is the nature of Drashya? Here it is, he's saying that because these two are taken together, that's why all the pain is there. So that is not enough. That is not enough to say that you are mixing consciousness with the objects, that's why you are unhappy. Now Patanjali, when he says this, he has to show the way how to understand what is this I, what is this Drashya. He has to make us understand. And what is this Drashya? He has to make us understand. So subsequent sutras will talk about what is the nature of the objective world, whatever we are experiencing. Now when we are talking about objective world, everything we know, everything we experience is object for us. Because only object can be known. And everything is we are knowing. We are not only knowing the external world, various kinds of things which are there, the people are there, the object things are there. As I gave example of coffee, kitchen, office, car, train, several things are there. But even our body, we can know our body. So body is an object. Body is not consciousness. Even our mind, we can study our mind. We can become aware of our thoughts. So if we can dissect our thoughts, if we can become aware of thoughts, that means who's looking at these thoughts? There has to be somebody else. वो तो कोई दूसरा होना चाहिए जो ये थॉट्स को देख सकता है, जो ये थॉट्स को जान सकता है. तो ये जो दूसरा है ये कौन है? तो ये इसी को उन्होंने चेतना कहा है. ये चेतना अगर हमारे अंदर नहीं रहती थी, दिस कॉन्शियसनेस, if it was not there, we will not be able to relate with the external world. So mind is functioning, the body is functioning. If the consciousness is not related to the senses and to the mind, we don't know. We don't understand. We can understand from simple example. Your eyes are open, you are looking at the object, but your mind is somewhere else. Then eyes are open, but still you will not be able to see the object. The reflection of the object is there in the eyes, and it is also there, and it can go into the brain, it can be interpreted, but because our consciousness is not there, we are not lending consciousness to that. So we will not know about what is happening in front of our eyes. So there has to be this entity which is Drasta, which is responsible for this kind of experience. So these are the logical things. Now, all the characteristics which are there in the external world, all the objects in the external world, even our mind, body, even our thinking process and thoughts, even our ahankar, this is also an object. And only the Chetna or Purusha is pure consciousness. And both are combined together in I sense. So understanding this I sense and becoming established in Purusha, separating Buddhi from Purusha is what is the aim of yoga. That is what is the aim of yoga. That is why yoga says in a very simple way. We may not begin it in a very deep way. It is not possible because our minds are too engrossed and too gross, too engaged in the external world to understand the subtle intricacies of consciousness. So yoga says, practice awareness throughout the day. And that's why the entire yoga technology has been devised in such a way that it makes us more and more aware. More aware of what? More aware of our own body. More aware of our own body processes. More aware of the energy we have, the prana shakti we have, the chi or ki we have, how it is operating, from where the chi is arising, from where that energy is arising, how the pranas come, what is depleting the pranas, what are responsible things which increase the pranas. All those are subject matter of technology developed by yoga. So one may begin at the physical level, and it has been said that when we talk about self-awareness, the persons who are doing yoga asanas or pranayams or dharana dhyan or even yamas and niyamas, their self-awareness increases manifold. So the more asanas are doing, if we are doing asanas mechanically, it may not be so. But if we are doing asanas in a prescribed manner as yoga wants us to practice, very slowly, consciously, deliberately, with full awareness, with full calmness, with full concentration, with full focus, our body awareness increases. And this body awareness also tells us about subtle changes which are taking place in the body. Not only that, at later on stage, as one is practicing regularly for some years, asanas and pranayams are practiced, meditation is practiced, then person not only becomes aware of the subtle changes taking place in the body, but even in the mind. Suddenly a destructive thought comes. Person is aware that I am thinking this, let me stop. The other person may not be able to stop it. But a practitioner of yoga or practitioner of spiritual discipline, not only yoga, but any spiritual discipline, one who's working on the kleshas, one who's focusing the mind, he will become aware of the subtle changes which are taking place in the mind. And he will also be able to see the connection between those thoughts and the actions which may follow. And he may stop doing those actions. So this is the way awareness can go, and gradually one becomes aware of the self itself. My nature is awareness, truly. That is why one becomes aware that I'm aware. And when you see, one the beautiful part is, I think we had done this exercise when we did chapter 1, when we did Sutra 3, I had made you do little exercise. And in that exercise, we saw that when we are aware, when we are totally aware of the self, there is no thinking. No thinking is possible. Buddhi as if stops. So when one is maintaining this self-awareness, then all the activity of brain, all the activity of mind, all the activity of body, all the actions and reactions can be controlled. And then that way one can get established, and one can get a good glimpse of this pure consciousness. So all the objective world is Drashya, and then Drashya affects us. See, somehow these objective things, our body affects us, the change in our body or change in the external world, it affects us. So they are responsible for various kinds of experiences we are going through. So that is the nature of Drashya. Now the question comes that how does this happen? What is the nature of this sanyoga? What is the nature of this union between the consciousness and Purusha? How did they come together? Why did they come together? Now, this is a very important question, because when we look at this idea of nature of pure consciousness and nature of the objective world, they are totally different from each other. How did they come together? So now examples have been given, various examples can be given to understand, analogies can be given. But the analogies are not the real thing. Analogies are just to be used to understand the point behind it. So various kinds of analogies are given. One of the analogies is there that the objective world is acting like a magnet. So magnet, if it is kept near a piece of iron, that piece of iron also gets magnetized. And that piece of iron also starts behaving like a magnet. So same way is the relationship between the object and the consciousness. Consciousness is really responsible for all the changes which are taking place, and all the changes are taking place in the objective world so that it can serve the purpose of Purusha, it can serve the purpose of consciousness. And we'll see in the next sutra how that is happening. But now let us talk about the nature of sanyoga. And then we will see that why it is important to understand about this sanyoga. When we talk about sanyoga or union, when we talk about two things are united, one of the limitations our mind suffers from is that mind cannot think beyond space and time. So if I say something that I saw two things together, immediately the question will arise, where did you see it? Where did you see it? And when did you see it? So where you saw it and where you when you saw it. So time and space are the two important things. So one union could be where two objects are placed together. Now, for example, two books are there. Now two books are there, and here two books are there. Can we say that these books are united? These are united because there's physical proximity. One is kept on the other. They are together. So they are appearing to be together. They are appearing to be together. Now, when we talk about two things coming together, or say, for example, if we take a brick and keep another brick on that earlier brick, we'll say the two bricks are together. संयोग हो गया दोनों का. Another way we can look at it, when we see a bird on the tree, a bird is sitting on the tree and there is a union. Without that union, bird cannot sit on the tree. Bird is sitting because the tree is there and bird is resting on the tree. So this is the spatial union. ये spatial संयोग है. We are used to this kind of संयोग. We see many things together. When we are sitting next to each other, we are very close. That is also a kind of union. When two objects are coming together, that is also a kind of union. But this is spatial. And then there are other kind of unions, other kind of sanyoga, which is at a mental level, which can be related to the time. So at the same time, we are happy also and we are knowing also. हम खुश हैं, इसका हमको ज्ञान भी है. हम खुश भी हैं और हम लोग ज्ञान भी है. I am happy. At the same time, I have the knowledge. I am knowing that I am happy. So being happy and knowing, these two are different things. Being happy and knowing that I am happy, these two are different things. But simultaneously, I am seeing that I am happy and I know that I am happy. This is also a kind of union. These examples have been given in the Vyas Bhashya and the commentary. And yet another kind of union is there, which is the union between Drashya and Drasta. This union between Drasta and Drashya, this union between pure consciousness and Buddhi. By the way, this in Buddhist thinking, this pure consciousness or consciousness which is there with us in the form of ego consciousness, it is known as Vijnana. It is known as Vijnana. So now, how did the consciousness arise? How did the consciousness, if there is pure consciousness and there is object which does not have consciousness, how did they come together? They came together in the form of Asmita. Because in Asmita, we see them together. At no other place we will see them together. In Asmita, we will see them together. So how did they come together? And what is the true nature of this? But now the question comes that when we talk about our minds being limited by space and time, we cannot go beyond space and time. That is the problem. कुछ भी हमारा ज्ञान होगा, कोई कुछ भी बात करेगा, कितना भी अच्छा बात करेगा, कितना भी अच्छा एक्सपर्ट रहेगा बात करने में, तभी भी हम जो सोचेंगे, हम जो समझेंगे, वो जो है वो स्पेस और टाइम में लिमिटेड रहेगा. Within the limitations of space and time only we are able to think. We cannot go beyond that. Whereas the Purusha is beyond space and Mula Prakriti is beyond space. Because the so-called Asmita or so-called Buddhi or intellect which we have, the Mahat or Buddhi Tattva, it is the combination of Purusha and Buddhi Tattva. So the fact that Buddhi Tattva has come into existence is because the Purusha and Prakriti have united. And then with the Buddhi, the sense of time also comes, the sense of space also comes. So Buddhi, which is a product of Purush and Prakriti, it is limited by space and time because it can think only in terms of space and time. But Purusha is beyond time because Purusha is at the Mula, at the root, at the origin. Same way Prakriti is at the origin. So Prakriti and Purusha both are beyond space and time. So how do we understand that union? And that union might be correct also, that union may not be correct also. So what we have seen in earlier sutras, in Sutra 4 and 5 of this chapter, Anitya Shuchi Dukkha Anatmasu Nitya Shuchi Sukha Atma Khyati Ravidya. So Anitya ko Nitya देखना, अशुचि को शुचि देखना, दुख को सुख देखना और अनात्म को आत्म देखना, ये अविद्या है. तो ईगो कॉन्शियसनेस को हम लोग आत्मा के तौर पे देखते हैं. तो दैट मीन्स ये जो एसोसिएशन है, ये जो संयोग है, ये रियल संयोग नहीं है. ये अपीयर हो रहा है, ये अविद्या की वजह से हमको संयोग लग रहा है. ये अगर अविद्या अगर जैसे दूर हो जाएगी तो ये संयोग अपने आप टूट जाएगा. Last time I told you that Buddha also traces everything to avidya. Patanjali also traces everything to avidya. If we remove avidya, then everything will become clear. Everything will become clear, and these two entities which are different from each other, which cannot unite actually because they are totally different from each other. Purusha is always pure consciousness. It is not transmissible. It is not, changing at all. It is never changing, eternally same. So how can something which is eternally same, non-changing, pure, it can interact with something which is all the time changing? Because we are looking at the world. Our body is changing all the time. Our mind is changing all the time. Our thoughts are changing all the time. The world is changing all the time. So how can this consciousness get connected to this changing entity called Prakriti, which is made up of three gunas? So Sattva is there, Rajas is there. Because Rajas influences Sattva, Sattva undergoes change. Now, when Sattva undergoes change, our consciousness, ego consciousness become less or very intense. But the consciousness which is behind the ego consciousness, it doesn't change, it remains same. So this is the secret of, two things coming together, that it is a fictitious kind of union. It is not a real union like a union of two objects. Like union of two objects can be also understood from the point of view of, say, I gave this example earlier also. When we look at water, if I hold a glass of water in front of you and ask you what is it, you will say water. Water is taken as a one element, something which is quenching our thirst. We never see water as anything else. But a person who's trained in the chemistry and science, if you show him what is this, he may say it is called water in general language, in common language, but it is a compound of hydrogen and oxygen. But apparently, when we are dealing with the water, we are treating water as one thing, unit. And that is used for quenching thirst, and for various other purposes we are using water. But we are not thinking in terms of water being a compound made up of hydrogen and oxygen, H2O. So only a trained mind will say that water is H2O. Water has hydrogen also and oxygen also. So now one will say, okay, how did this sanyoga take place? Now hydrogen is totally different element, oxygen is totally different element. How did it came together? No scientist in the world will be able to tell why did hydrogen bind with oxygen to give rise to water. No scientist will be able to tell you. They are still speculating. They are still thinking about it. They cannot answer this. And then if you ask them, the scientists, sir, when did water come into existence? Do you think that any scientist will be able to tell when did water come into existence? Because that also how it is joined, when it joined, we do not know. Because maybe millions of years back it happened. Now, no scientist alive to tell, or no scientist has been there to tell us. So same way, now this analogy can be applied to Purusha and Prakriti. We do not know why Purusha and Prakriti came together. But like a scientist, now if you ask this scientist, sir, how do you say that it is a compound of hydrogen, oxygen? Scientists will say, I can show you. How I can show you? I'll separate the oxygen from hydrogen. He can separate the hydrogen from oxygen and he can show you this is oxygen, this is hydrogen. How does he show that? There are certain tests in chemistry. There are certain tests which will tell us that this gas is oxygen and this gas is hydrogen. So you will be convinced that yes, water is compound of two things, hydrogen and oxygen, and this is hydrogen, this is. Same way a yogi can tell you that we are a compound of Prakriti and Purusha. When did we come together? Why did we come together? How we came together? Only God knows. He cannot answer that. But if you care, if you are wanting to understand the truth, then I can show you how to separate them. So yogi will tell a way Patanjali is like a yogi telling us how to separate Purusha and Prakriti, how to understand this union. So getting established into pure consciousness is the aim of yoga. That is what is known as Kaivalya. In other words, it can be said that when gunas are separating from the Purusha and getting established in Mula Prakriti, that is Kaivalya, that is Mukti. So various kinds of words are there. As I told you that there are certain things which are beyond words, which cannot be expressed in terms of words and language. So this Sanyoga is also like that. Sanyoga is something which is beyond space, beyond time. So this association is not of the kind which can be explained in terms of when, where, how. Nothing can be explained, like the water. But then compound is there, Purusha and Prakriti, because our experience tells us. When I get up in the morning, I say, I am alive, I am conscious, I am knowing. What I am knowing, everything else which I am knowing is not me. I am there, and everything else which I am knowing, which is not me. So there are only two things, Drashya and Drasta. जो जान रहा है और जो जाना जा रहा है. The knower and the knowable. The experiencer and what is being experienced. The knower and the knowable. That gives rise to knowledge. That gives rise to the I sense. So this is how the logical thinking has been given and the explanations have been given. And there's a very important, very important quotation in this Vyas Bhashya of this sutra. Vyasa has quoted Maharshi Panchashikha. And Maharshi Panchashikha has been talked about in Mahabharata several times. They say that he was a great Sankhya yogi, and the sutras of Sankhya sutras are ascribed to Panchashikha. Shashti Tantra, which is Sankhya, Shashti Tantra is ascribed to Panchashikha. And he was the teacher of Janaka, according to Mahabharata. Panchashikha was teacher of Janaka. He was so learned that whatever other knowledge Janaka had acquired, he just gave it away and he gave it up and he just started listening to Panchashikha, because Panchashikha was a realized person. So Panchashikha has given a quote, and that quote is, I think if it is, in Sanskrit it says, Tat Sanyoga Hetu Vivarjanat Syad Yamat Tyantiko Dukkha Pratikarah. So by giving up the cause of correlation with Buddhi, this absolute remedy of affliction can be effected. Now what does it mean is that one who understands about this coming together of pure consciousness and Buddhi, if one is interested in understanding it, and if he tries to do that, then he can permanently get rid of all the pain and all the suffering. All the afflictions can be removed from his life. That is what Panchashikha has said. And Panchashikha is mentioned in Mahabharata. And in Mahabharata, Panchashikha has been referred to as an ancient Rishi. That means how old he must be, we cannot understand that. We don't know exactly when Panchashikha was there, but his quotation is there in Vyas Bhashya, which I just said. So this is the little philosophical and technical sutra. Now two things have come together totally. Now various examples are there which can be understood how the object and consciousness works. It could be the consciousness is knowing, experiencing, and the objective world is there to provide experience. But there's no actual connection between them. So what is the nature of this sanyoga? What is the nature of this connection? It can be understood from one example which we have discussed in earlier sutras. What is the relationship between sun and the earth? Almost same relation is there between Prakriti and Purusha. Another example which we can understand, from which we understand this relationship is, we are traveling at the night time. रात को हम लोग जब travel कर रहे होते हैं, तो when we are on the highways or when we are in rural area, the street lights are not there, but there are reflective material boards, sign boards are there which are showing us the path. which tell us whether we are on the right track or not. Or if there is a turn, we will know that there is a right turn, there is a left turn. So these boards, are they having their own light? They do not have their own light, but they shine in the light of car headlight. But they are made up in such a way that, car headlight, when the light of car headlight falls on this reflective boards, immediately the signs which are printed there, they become visible to us. And if there is a right turn, we take a right turn. If there is a left turn shown, we take a left turn, and we save ourselves. And we are able to, drive carefully and drive safely because of these signboards. But these signboards do not have their own light. Same way, our body, our buddhi, our mind, and external world does not have any consciousness. It is shining in the light of the Purusha. It is shining in the light of pure consciousness. So, like a car headlight, it is our own consciousness which is illuminating everything. Our consciousness illuminates our thoughts. Our consciousness illuminates the functioning of the body, the knowledge about the external world, our experiences. All that is possible because we are conscious. Otherwise, it will not be possible. Now, this class, for example, अभी एक class को ले लेते हैं. In this class, why this class is important? Because we are getting connected to this class. We are trying to know what is happening in this class. So our consciousness is there, involved here. That's why this class is important. The person who's not attending the class, who might be sitting next to me, but he may not be bothered because his consciousness is not getting related. So for whom the class is important? Even among those who are present in the class, if they are not consciously attending it, for them it may not be important. It may be important only for those who are lending consciousness and focusing their minds. And how they are focusing their minds? Because they are conscious. All of us are conscious. That's why we are interacting, and we are lending our consciousness to the various activities we are doing. But activities themselves are dead. They don't have consciousness. So what is providing meaning to the activities? It is the consciousness which is providing meaning to the activities. So now in next sutra we will see what is the nature of this drashya. पूरे प्रकृति को कैसे समझना है? What our body is made up of, what our mind is made up of, what external world, various objects is made up of. That is drashya, because whatever we are knowing is drashya. Whatever we are knowing is knowable. Now what is the true nature of knowable? That we will see in the next two sutras. And after that, what is the nature of Purusha? What is the nature of consciousness? That we will see from Sutra 20 onwards. 20, 21, 22, we will see what is the nature of Purusha. And then that portion will come where Hanam and Hanopaya. So this way the entire chapter goes. Now this is a little technical sutra. This is I know it is difficult to understand. The concepts are a little tricky and subtle, but I tried my best. Hope if there are questions, if there are confusions, if there are questions, let us take them.
So the example that you gave about the highway and the street lights, that was a very good example. Like how the inner consciousness, because of the consciousness, the light falls on the objects, and then then the knowledge of that comes.
Yeah, the object is revealed as a result of that.
Object is revealed, sir. Correct. Sir.
Yes.
That was a very good example.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the credit to Vyasa.
Even the analogy of the oxygen and the hydrogen was also very much.
Yes.
Yeah. So this Pratisamvedi is the word which is used in Vyasa Bhashya. Purusha is the Pratisamvedi, reflector of Buddhi. Buddhi is not conscious, but Buddhi is becoming conscious because of the presence of Purusha. So they have used the word Pratisamvedi. And in English, it is translated as reflector. So when I read that, this idea came into my mind to use this as an example.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, two kinds of knowledge you said, that aham and naham.
Yeah.
So when we say that knowledge, can we say it is para and apara? No, that is not. They are different concepts.
No, that will be a different concept. Here, you see, let us talk about very simple experience. हम लोग जो अनुभव कर रहे हैं उसके बारे में बात करते हैं. हम लोग क्या अनुभव करते हैं? मैं और जो मैं नहीं हूँ. एक तो मैं हूँ और एक जो मैं नहीं हूँ. ये दो ही चीजें हमारे पास है और कोई कुछ भी चीज नहीं. तीसरी चीज कोई भी नहीं है. क्योंकि जो भी हम देख रहे हैं, जो भी हम अनुभव कर रहे हैं, वो मैं नहीं हूँ. और जो मैं जो अनुभव कर रहा हूँ, मैं अपने आप को भी अनुभव कर रहा हूँ, वो मैं हूँ. तो एक तरफ तो मैं हूँ अहम, और दूसरी तरफ जो मैं नहीं हूँ ना हम. On one side, I am knower, I am the knower, I am the experiencer, I am consciousness, I am knowing. And what I am knowing? So only two things are there. Knowledge is of only two kinds. One is that I am the knower, and everything else is knowable. Everything else is knowable for me. Aham and Naham.
So there is one video of Dr. Jaydev ji on YouTube.
Acha.
In which he says, aware of awareness.
Yes.
Final, some foreigner had taken his interview. So finally he says, you have to become aware of your awareness.
You have to be, becoming aware of awareness is all yoga is all about.
All yoga.
Yoga is only that. Yes. Becoming aware of the awareness is what yoga is.
Yes.
So this awareness, which we have to become aware of, is ego awareness, and we have to become aware of this ego awareness. Rajkumar ji, if you have the link, you can put it on the group. Others
I'll
can
send it. I'll send it.
That will be nice. You can share with others.
Yes, I'll put it right now.
Yeah.
Once you finish the class, I'll put it.
Yes.
Sir, call me Rajkumar only, sir. I'm your student.
No, it's okay. Don't worry. Don't worry. Oh, आदत पड़ गई है. I can't change immediately.
Wonderful session, sir. Today was really an enlightening session.
No, I was afraid it's very technical. So
yes, actually, we have to again go through this session again. It was worth to ponder again. Yes. Any more questions, friends?
In chat, there is some chat is there.
Sir, मैंने ही पूछा था, जैसे आपने बताया कि whatever you know about yourself, so that is
okay.
जो बॉडी के लेवल पर जो सेंसेशंस आते हैं वो भी एक ऑब्जेक्ट ही है.